I think it is time. CNN just changes Soledad O'Brien's show from a news segment to a comedy hour. Now let's listen as Bay Buchanan just schools this girl on her own show.
He says we need more firemen, more policemen, more teachers. Did he not get the message of Wisconsin? The American people did. It's time for us to cut back on government and help the American people.
Was that the message from Wisconsin? Cut back on firefighters and teachers?
I think if you had played his whole clip, Soledad, if you played his whole clip, what Mitt Romney said right before that was that Obama has no message. His message is the same as it always has been. What has failed in this country, what he said is Obama wants more government spending to enlarge the size of government. And the message from Wisconsin is no, that is not the answer. We do not want more government and more reckless spending. What we want is responsible government. And
but he didn't say that, Bay.
If you look right before that, he says what Obama wants is more government hiring, more government spending.
And he says, and then he goes on to literally say, he says we need more firemen, more policemen, more teachers. So his definition of more government is more firemen, more policemen, more teachers, to the point where, as you know, Governor Scott Walker had to say, actually, that wasn't the message from the recall election in my state.
What we have here is a president who has failed America, who has crushed the hopes and dreams of millions of Americans. 8%, more than 8% unemployment, year after year. A stimulus that completely failed this country. Reckless regulations that are making businesses, closing them, and are making them completely stagnant. Listen, we have Americans suffering across this country. People 50 years and older who will never see another job. And this man says that the public sector is fine. You tell me, Dad, this president is either completely clueless about what is going on in this country, or he simply doesn't care. I want to know which one, because both of them are leading this nation to fiscal ruin.
I'm not sure he would agree with that. There are two options to that question.
Well,
doesn't care. But let me ask you about Mitt Romney for a moment, if I can. So he basically says, he points to the firemen, the policemen, and more teachers as if hiring those are a bad thing for the economy. Why isn't that actually not correlated with economic growth?
Listen, clearly, every state and every locality decides on how many police, how many teachers, and how many firemen are best for their community. And the reason they can't maintain that number, if they are not, is because of the economy, the overall economy. The money, the businesses are not there. People are failing. People are unemployed. And that is raising the cost of local and state government. And so they are not able to do all that they want. The key to that turning around is a strong economy. In this congressional budget office has made it very clear last week that Barack Obama's policies have put us at fiscal ruin. We are facing fiscal ruin. That affects all Americans, including local government.
If you're talking about the fiscal cliff from the CBO, and having read that report, that it does not say that Obama's policies have done that. What they point out is that Congress actually has to get its act together. We're going to fall off the cliff.
Please, Soledad, he's the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world. It is he has to take some responsibility for the economy that his policies have created after 3.5 years. Take a little responsibility, show a little leadership, and give us some answers instead of saying, we're going to do more of the same, more of the same. What's going to happen? Why do we think we're going to get a different solution? Unless he just totally misunderstands how this economy works.
How much of a problem is it when people, as they're going to turn this comment from Mitt Romney into a political ad, that he's saying we need more firemen, the president says we need more firemen, more policemen, more teachers. Did he not get the message? It sounds like, to me at least, Mitt Romney is arguing against the hiring of that. Is that going to be a problem? Is that going to be something that's going to come back to bite him?
No, he obviously wants states to be able to hire who they need to take care of those communities. And those three groups, firemen, policemen, and teachers, are critical to society. And don't get me wrong, Obama, those groups are hurting as well. Their families and friends are suffering as well out there. They know this economy is not working, and they understand where it's coming from. So this idea that Obama has no responsibility, in the own ad, he really indicts himself. He says 450,000 local and government and state state workers have been laid off. Why do you think they're being laid off, Mr. President? Do you not understand that when the economy is suffering, when we are having the situation we're having today with this slow, almost no growth in the country sometimes, that he is impacting, his policies are impacting what's going on in the state and local. We need a man in the White House who understands how to turn this country around, how to put America back to work. And he proved that in Massachusetts. And Soledad, I want to correct something that Stephanie said. When he was governor, Mitt Romney went into the office. The state was number 50. He took it to number 30 for job creation. He went in there with looking at a huge deficit. He had surplus. He balanced the budget every single year and left with a surplus. If Barack Obama could do just half the kind of job that Mitt Romney did in Massachusetts, this country would be thriving. He's instead run deficits, $1 trillion deficits every single year.
This is going to be an argument that's going to continue for the next 5 months with everyone yelling on both sides. Stephanie Cutter, thank you for being with us. Bay Buchanan.